Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I am Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Hey, listen, I'm going to start this video with a warning, which is, hey, if you've ever thought about getting into the AR platform, now might be the right time to do it. You see, after a bloodbath of a legislative session, where we saw standard capacity magazines be banned, new restrictions on untraceable firearms, new restrictions on where we can open and conceal carry, our Attorney General feels rather emboldened and he wants more. So today we're going to have to spend a few minutes talking about something that I think is a real possibility, because here they come. Bob Ferguson announces plan to push for an assault weapon ban. Okay, so we're a long way off from our next legislative session, but sometimes you can start reading the tea leaves. And candidly, when this last bloodbath of a legislative session ended, I was really glad not to be doing any more videos on that. But lo and behold, Attorney General Ferguson has given us something that we all, as lawful and responsible gun owners here in Washington State, need to be abundantly aware of, which is on June 3rd, just this month, during Gun Violence Awareness Day, Attorney General Ferguson, who is perhaps the most politicized Attorney General anywhere in the United States of America, and that's not an opinion, that really in many ways is a fact, but I digress. He chose that opportunity to announce that he would be making a significant push for an assault weapon ban. Now, I know some of you are already freaking out that I'm using the term assault weapon, okay? I am only using the terminology that is in the statute, okay? It is not my words, it is their words that I'm using, but it is their words that will end up in the law. Listen, the magazine ban passed almost exclusively along party lines, and unless there is a significant change in the makeup of the House of Representatives and the state Senate, we are likely to see a very concerted effort by those on the political left come next legislative session to ban you, the lawful and responsible gun owner, from one of the most common weapons used for self-defense. Now, I know a lot of you are going to be commenting on the constitutionality of such a ban, and while I agree with that, that is not the subject matter of this particular video. We will be doing more on that, and as we know, there is some pending legislation before the United States Supreme Court that could significantly resolve this issue once and for all. Today, what I want to focus on is Senate Bill 5217. Now, we only talked a little bit about this when the legislative session began rolling, but this bill didn't gather a lot of steam, and for that reason, we didn't cover it a lot as we got later and later into the legislative session. But now that the dust has settled, we have a blueprint for exactly what Attorney General Ferguson and those on the left want to do to disarm you, the lawful and responsible gun owner in Washington State. So what I want to do today is go through 5217, just pull a few little digestible pieces out of there so you can get an idea of what may be coming our way. Now, we'll put the link for this bill down below, and again, this was the original bill. It never really got into committee, never got kicked around, it didn't have any language changes, so it is in its most ridiculous of formats right now, but again, I think it gives us a real good idea. For example, what exactly is an assault weapon? Now, again, I know that's terminology that none of you want to hear, but again, that's the terminology that is in the bill. Without getting too deep into the numerous definitions that they give, I can assure you that the AR-15 in all formats, and the AK-47 in all formats, and the AK-74 in all formats, and the M4 and M16 in all formats would be deemed unlawful assault weapons. And then there is a laundry list of many, many other makes and models of firearms that would also be banned by this legislation. Now, if enacted into legislation, what would this statute actually do? Well, it would add a new section to RCW 9.41, and for those of you who've been geeking out on this channel for a while, you know that's where all of our firearm regulations are written, and the statute would read as follows. No person in this state may manufacture, possess, distribute, import, transfer, sell, or offer for sale, purchase, or otherwise transfer any assault weapon except as authorized in this section. And then most of those exceptions deal with FFLs, law enforcement, and military. Now, I want you to notice that unlike the magazine ban, which clearly prohibited the commercial sale of high-capacity magazines. This bill would ban the possession of any assault weapon. So is Washington State then heading towards a massive gun seizure the day this law is enacted? Are we going to have a civil war here in Washington where all of us have to turn in our assault weapons? No, there is a grandfathering clause, but this is the important thing, and we're going to slow down here for a second, because you need to understand how this grandfathering clause is going to work, and we're going to have to pay very careful attention to the language, because I do believe that this is language that could remain consistent in any other similar bills that might be proposed. Okay, the other exception in the statute is a grandfathering clause, and it would read as follows. The possession of an assault weapon by a person who legally possessed the assault weapon on the effective date of this section, or possession of an assault weapon by a person who, on or after the effective date of this section, acquires possession of the assault weapon by operation of law upon the death of the former owner who was in legal possession of the assault weapon, provided the person in possession of the assault weapon can establish such provenance. Okay? In that last language there, establish such provenance, okay? That is really critical, and we're going to talk about that in just a second, okay? The other part of the exception reads, a person who legally possesses an assault weapon under this subsection may not sell or transfer the assault weapon to any other person in this state other than to a licensed dealer, to a federally licensed gunsmith for the purpose of service or repair, or to a law enforcement agency for the purposes of permanently relinquishing the assault weapon. So yes, all of the assault weapons that all of you lawful and responsible gun owners out there in Washington State own, you would be grandfathered in. However, when your last day finally arrives and you pass on, that firearm would theoretically at that point be surrendered to the state unless there is some vehicle by which the gun could be inherited and the person who inherits the gun, the beneficiary of that inheritance, would be able to establish such provenance. What is that? Provenance. Well, that's a fancy word for you need to be able to establish that you came into lawful possession of an item and that you currently lawfully own it. So, therefore, you currently have 5 ARs. You want your boys, all 5 of them, to each have 1 apiece. Can that happen upon your death? Yes, it can. But if questioned, those boys are going to have to establish that they lawfully came into possession of them through an inheritance, and that the original possessor, that being you, the now deceased person, owned those firearms prior to the enactment of the assault weapons ban. Do you begin to see how complicated this could be, unless, of course, you have a gun trust? And so this is something we're going to need to be really, really carefully watching, because there may be not only a need to go rush out there and buy some assault weapons as defined by statute, and there may be a need to start establishing gun trusts. And let us also remember that the statute specifically states, a person who legally possesses an assault weapon under this subsection may not sell or transfer the assault weapon to any person in this state other than to a licensed dealer. But of course, if we establish a gun trust, we are not necessarily transferring the firearm to another person. Now, in support of this push to yet further strip you, the lawful and responsible gun owner, of your Second Amendment rights, Attorney General Ferguson has regurgitated some of his talking point material, including the following statement. Assault weapons have been used in some of the deadliest shootings over the last decade and are becoming increasingly more popular in mass shootings. And of course, there is a footnote to the resource material on that. And of course, that's the Huffington Post. Because we know if we want to get accurate reporting on gun violence issues, the Huff Post is definitely the place that we should be looking. And we will put a link down below to the Attorney General's talking points, including a link to this page right here. Ooh, it shows all the scary things about an assault weapon. So listen, I think it cannot be understated how important these upcoming November elections are for any House or Senate seats that are up for grabs. Listen, I'm sure there will be many, many more developments, and I'm sure that this legislation will likely change in some way as we get closer and closer to the legislative session. In the meantime, if you have any questions about this or anything else related to your Second Amendment rights, remember you can always contact us at WashingtonGunLaw.com, or you can call us directly at 425-765-0487. Now, let's remember, part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here at Washington Gun Law, is to know what the law is in every situation and how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching. Stay safe.